The first condition is, if my people will humble themselves. So tonight I'm going to speak about that first condition, humbling yourself, humbling myself. And I want to point out to you that the first sin in the universe did not take place on earth. It was not committed by a human being. It took place in heaven, and it was committed by an archangel, and his name was Lucifer. After his rebellion and his fall, his name was changed to Satan. Now, one of the functions of prophecy is not merely to tell us what is going to happen, but it's also to tell us what has happened that we couldn't otherwise know. For instance, Moses was a prophet, and he's given us the revelation of how creation took place. Otherwise, we could never know. Yeah. Now, there's another prophet, Ezekiel, who describes very vividly the fall of Lucifer. And you'll find the words in Ezekiel 28, verses 11 and following. Ezekiel 28. Now, this is a vivid, poetic picture. And I could speak on this at length, but I only want to just touch on the main outlines. Son of man, verse 12, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre. Now, in this chapter, there are two persons. The first person is the prince of Tyre. The second is the king of Tyre. And it's very clear that the prince of Tyre is a human being. It's equally clear that the king of Tyre was not a human being. And this brings out a fact which is very important, especially understanding spiritual warfare, that human earthly kings are ruled by satanic spiritual kingdoms in the heavens. And if you really want to deal with the problems, it's not sufficient to deal with the problem on the earthly level. You have to deal with the problem on the heavenly level. And there is only one company of people that is equipped and armed to do that. It's not the politicians, it's not the generals, it's not the scientists, it's the Church of Jesus Christ. We alone have the knowledge and the weapons at our disposal to deal with those satanic principalities and powers in the heavenlies which actually dominate the course of human history. And so now, in this second part of chapter 28, Ezekiel turns his attention away from the prince of Tyre to the king of Tyre. And as I read these words, you'll see very clearly it could not be a human being that is being described. In verse 12, thus says the Lord God, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. Notice, he's an angelic being, but he's a created being. There's only one person who is uncreated. That's God. All the rest of us are created. There's a teaching today that's even infiltrated the church that somehow we can become gods. But dear brothers and sisters, that's ridiculous. The created can never become the uncreated. Then it goes on, you were the anointed cherub who covers the throne of God. I established you, God speaks. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. Obviously, this is not any human being that's being addressed. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity or rebellion was found in you. And then we just take one further verse, verse 17. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I laid you before kings that they might gaze at you. What was the reason for Lucifer's fall? What was his sin? Pride. That's right. And pride, brothers and sisters, is the original sin. We use the word original sin theologically, speaking about the sin that's been inherited from Adam. But really, that's not a correct use. The original sin is pride. And in my opinion, pride is the root of every other sin. And Satan's main tactic against us is to induce in us a condition of pride. And I heard a fellow preacher once say, an Indian brother, and he said, pride is the only sin about which Satan never makes you feel guilty.